Wait, am I missing one? Hi comrades, happy Thursday. Today's video is going to be a little bit different from what I usually do, but this seems to be a pattern on my channel, doing a little bit different than what I usually do. Today I'm going to do a tier list of horror movies, basically every single horror movie I've reviewed on my channel so far, and that's 30 horror movies. 30 horror movies in 4 months. That's not bad, eh? Alright, so I've got 5 categories. S, which is like the super tier. S for scurry, and then it's A, B, C, D in like alphabet from best to worst. A, funny, B, PG horror, C, gross, and D, what's this even about? I don't really have a method to this, so I'm just gonna start from the first one and go forward. First we have The Omen. This movie is like an old classic. It's an old classic about a couple that suddenly adopts like this kid and he turns out to be the Antichrist. I'm gonna put it in the top tier. Wow, look at that, we're starting good. Alright, next we have the Vigil. I'm gonna put this one in D. What's this even about? Because if you asked me right now what this movie was about, I wouldn't be able to tell you, even though I reviewed it probably not that long ago. We've got Possibly in Michigan. This one is gonna go in the funny tier. This is like a horror short, and it's also kind of like a musical, and it's got a really good plot twist in the end. So if you would watch anything out of this entire video, it should be this, because it's short, it's sweet, it gets to the point, and it's actually really good.
She must have been out of her head.
Now I have Frozen. This one's gonna go in the last tier. This movie is so dumb. It was just like about, I guess it wouldn't really go in this tier because I can tell you what it's about. It's just about like three friends that get stranded on. This movie had too much dialogue, so it's gonna go in this tier. The Exorcist is gonna go on top, probably before The Omen, to be honest, because it was actually really good. If you don't know what The Exorcist is about, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not gonna explain this movie to you right now. Antrim. This movie is supposed to be like possessed and disturbing, but I didn't understand anything. Krampus is gonna go in PG horror, and also kind of funny, but mostly in PG horror. It's like a Christmas movie about an anti-Santa. Next we've got our Russian horror movie, Baba Yaga, which is like about a grandmother that steals children. It's gonna go in PG horror. Actually, probably before Krampus. Willy's Wonderland, starring Nicolas Cage. It's gonna go in the funny tier, just for this one scene.
I'm gonna feast on your face!
Next we have Human Centipede. This one is gonna go in the gross tier. If you thought it was gonna go anywhere else, you were wrong, because if you've seen this movie, you understand why it's gonna go in this tier. Alright, we have Super Deep. Super Deep is gonna go before The Omen, but after The Exorcist. This is a Russian horror movie about scientists that bore into like the deepest mountain or something like that, and then there's like a disease underground. It's a good movie, I recommend checking it out. Okay, we've got Mermaid. This is gonna go in PG horror after all of these movies. The Mermaid doesn't even have a tail, so this is another Russian horror movie. It's like a fantasy take on the Mermaid. Megan is Missing. Where am I supposed to put this one? What's this even about? But I'll put it after Vigil. I'm gonna put it after Vigil, just so I'm not gonna put it too low, just so I don't piss people off, but honestly, this movie freaking sucked. Alright, we've got another Russian movie. This one is called Night Watch. It's gonna go in the PG horror, probably before everything else. This was a really good like action horror movie. Smiley, directed by Shane Dawson. I'm gonna go in the last of the last. Smiley is about a serial killer that kills people and then sends, I did it for the lols. Dumbest horror movie you've ever seen. Okay, Serbian film, gross, but before Human Centipede. This one had like a thought to it, even though I didn't really finish it. How do I? There you go. Okay, Queen of Spades, PG horror. Over here, it's another Russian horror movie. It's about, kind of like Bloody Mary, you know, like a ghost that travels through mirrors. Baskin, gross. And I also didn't understand what it was about, but mostly gross. Like a lot of really gross scenes. If you're really into this, if you're really into like the gross, disturbing stuff, this is probably the tier for you. The gross part. The Serbian film is probably one of the most disturbing movies I've seen. Next we have the Tusk. This one was funny. It was gross, but also really funny. So I'm gonna put it over here and before Willy's Wonderland. I've never seen anything like this, and I don't think I ever will. It's a movie about a doctor that kidnaps a guy and then turns him into a walrus. We've got Sputnik. It's gonna go after... No, it's actually gonna go before Super Deep. It's a Russian horror movie, kind of like Alien, sort of. Sputnik means like follower or passenger in Russian, so if that tells you anything, it's a good movie. Rosemary's Baby. It's gonna go in PG horror right after Night Watch. This is another classic movie. I'd honestly put it next to the Exorcist and The Omen, but because it was kind of like slow and not a lot of disturbing scenes or like gross scenes were there, I definitely put it in the PG horror. Alright, we've got Pet Cemetery Scurry, after Sputnik, before Super Deep. This is a Stephen King classic, a movie about a cemetery where things become alive. Next we've got the Poughkeepsie tapes. This one was really gross. But actually pretty interesting. I'm gonna put it after the Serbian film. Basically a story of a bunch of tapes being found in a house, and each tape is like dedicated to a specific killing that the serial killer did, but then they find out like a whole case of tapes, and they find out that it was all dedicated to just one girl, and it's like a pretty interesting story. We've got Rare Exports. It's gonna go in PG horror last. Actually, probably before Mermaid, just because the mermaid didn't have a tail. This movie is about a bunch of dudes and a kid that kidnap Santas. Basically. It's also not that scary. And not really horror, but, you know, PG horror. Alright, Saint Maud. Gonna go in the scary after Pet Cemetery, before Super Deep. This is about a nun that basically gets possessed. And then she becomes a caregiver to this lady that has cancer, and the nun believes that it's her duty to make the cancer lady like believe in God, but the cancer lady isn't having it at all. And also the nun is like cuckoo. It was a really good movie, and it's also pretty recent. So right, we've got The Hunt. Is gonna go after Saint Maud, but before Super Deep. This movie is like a political take on today's world, about this lady that basically like wakes up in the forest and she's like, where am I? And then she has to kill other people. You know, it's kind of like Hunger Games. Got The Silence. This one is gonna go after Antrim but before Smiley. This is a Netflix original, I believe, and this movie has every single plot all together, and yet the movie's about nothing. We've got The Taking of Deborah Logan. This movie is actually pretty scary. It's gonna go after Super D, but before The Omen. This movie is about a group. It's about college students that go to this lady's house, and she has, I think she's got Alzheimer's, and they're making a documentary on her, on like the deterioration of her disease, and they slowly realize that she gets possessed, and then there's a really good ending scene in the movie. So it was an interesting take on a documentary style movie. Okay, we've got Cola Super Deep. It's gonna go after Deborah Logan but before The Omen. This is another Russian movie. Oh wait, this is the same thing, the Cola Super Deep and the Super Deep. This is the same movie. Wait, am I missing one? I gotta be missing a movie then. Okay, can somebody let me know what movie I'm missing? Because I got one movie twice. The last movie that I have is called Alone. It's about a lady that basically gets kidnapped as she's traveling cross country, like on a move, and I don't know, half of the movie is her getting chased through the woods. It's pretty boring. I'm gonna put it before Smiley but after Silence. I'm also debating on moving Silence to Funny. Yeah, I think I'm gonna keep the Silence in the Funny tier. So there you go. We've got my horror movie tier list. We've got Scurry, we've got Funny, we've got the PG horror, we've got Gross, and we've got What's This Even About? If you're new here, I usually do horror movie reviews, horror series reviews, and like shock site reviews, but lately I've just been kind of doing whatever I want to, horror movie related. So if you want to, you should subscribe because I post pretty often. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope I see you next time. Bye!